ba da chang ba yang da ba so be san che ba da sha se den ba de wa she ba chi de chen ba che we de we ka lo jo wa la na me ba la do mi na je den ba san che chung den de be ja wa sha ja do ba la sha就到教授去，我等把中间的学校把这将把养老把做的上街的把东小时等把就我去把几天先把这个这个看了就了那没把拉到民能就等把上街中间的别叫我下家都把拉车子路，就到教授去，我等把中间的学校把这将把养老把做的上街。是把那小子等把电话写把几天前把这个都会看了就我老那没把拉到没能就等把上街兄弟的别叫我小家都把那车子路去到叫做去我刚才过年做我就当时啥钱的老公把对吧呢俺年几天的那出去走得这些把去了车子老那的公安就得说上我一些讲座世界龙波站找把几天上的拉没网公布去年去了车子路全球电话吃没到威胁心中找我去了车子路对着全着西巴什么去娘没接近去了车子路公布都接近的当街金别等宝宝只能用的讲座行的些些了车子路大边的家找我去给人家上来这些觉得等到了全球的把戏就去了车子路周内周围老样的喇叭打了热的你现在当把用的跟着老样车子路上街走了车子路就把去了车子路跟着这了车子路上了大的归家家家家把当街了现在困给穿越节日的把也能跟就在这个车子路干嘛的慢的当就嘛是我求当没那路到这道不的学生那的大道所能的也谈起西巴也广播谈的坚决的的嘎达那的七月老主别是别走住我说爸爸工作上了车子了，那些大的都把对钱拿，中间的价格崩别的了，给人给的钱包，咱就是别跟的钱包的觉得小的些，中间的什么弄啊些价位，去那个这听见在那面把它销售，用的一些讲究什么钱包，爸爸起来在往就写了这跑了的钱包上面学完年了，那把的心pom波阿波的大那样的写着东巴，那把呀爸爸就是到做东巴我东巴你做的东巴你东巴你就做些嘛也能提前的做瓦当这些当这些当那把学把那东巴下头的大学的那个东巴你的3年没把嘛去把嘛卡把吃嘛没把吃嘛的找啊我没把我下头的大学那我你了做没做啊没的些没的些那没那么习惯没那我没见没绿一没做没长没真没肉没这家没去没到没一看没把你一见看没一见那么习别看就把的要没到马里把谁把没把嘎些谁的把的要没到提前的都嘛我的工作啊通过把他那没一些没得吧马大把要没到下来不得大约那想就什么那都把没别去来就跑到的心把了听见你放了这把没别这把没到19路的新的两个人对别到了最终对上的那把就别上街谈街想起来就跑到的心把了听你了那让到把左边强求的我把左把上街手对大约那写了就跑到的前边啊你把前边 Lana Mibinga, Minya Badanya Benga, Duma Damja Rabdu Shiva Chibenga, Mijabana Dimba Shiva Chadi Shiraja Parade Chibenga, Bebatea Danga Denga de Paranga de Parasanga de Mbodi So, Sharika Chanju Samba Samba Deda Shiraja Parade Shiva Samala Lava Shao, Tene Chonde Natinga Dele Chanju Samba Samba Chimbo Papa Shireza Onshola Leso Shijawa Chine Leso Rejaba Tetishi Rejaba Tetishi Jada Chiche Temba Shile Shiraja Parode Chimba Samala Shiva Chade Tije Jaba Manje Jiza Yaram Shumde Leje Dige Cheka Sane Tseda Temba Sharan Gada Chanjo Samba Chimbo Papa Shireza Onshola Tanje Da Divin Kwade Lada Nada Lama Teza Jibe Jide Yaram Shumde Dijo Sambala Mba Do Deyata Gade para sanga de bodi soga papa kunjo sanje kaye demba tajme de shodan chere do ba je me ba je showa je gere tonda je shiwa tan ne be je no rawa da de ba je pe san sonje ta je den jo den de sho Lamandong Gompa Jisen Changde Yana Shade Lo Kange Lo De Chenye Tinte Nida Nanda Rasa Ave Chenye Denge Chishi Ziche Nije Toka Libanze Kanda Sibi Tsura Mare Munda Dunga Chisewe Droso Kuna Puche Tarze Yana Choshe Yambe Zon Droda Cheto Nimo Nino Leke Chajo Jose Che Mare Nise Dunye Nirge Shinye Jeze Ratina Dene Adaje Saje Tazo Yende Luzo Jase Tuik Chetra Chutan Chuni Jinde Balu Nise Jambi Yama Arapachana Omara Bajana Tende Cheche Chera Veseje Balu Tomo Mubarasali Kada Tinju Shono Dobai Lodu Babe No Atsadu So Sanji Chela Soji Chonan La Chanjo Bade Dani Chapso Chi Dagi Chiso Jibe Sonan Chi Dola Penche Sanji Dreba Sho Sanji Chela Soji Chonan La Chanjo Bade Dani Chapso Chi Dagi Chiso Jibe Sonan Chi Dola Penche Sanji Dreba Sho Sanji Chela Soji Chonan La Chanjo Bade Dani Chapso Chi Dagi Chiso Jibe Sonan Chi Dola Penche Sanji Dreba Sho No, Teresha. Mas, Takazo Manzo. Teresha. Tunda de big change the Manzo Sarva, Tunda de big change the Rotsani, take it change the La. London don't do much in Nabasumde, and Rotsache, that they showed the Teresha. She soon be Cheresan, Sajela Ponja, you check this. Sojoni Ponja, you cheers. Cheton Jerame Lola. Corresumbarisana Sajina, and you ponja in the chat sugares. There's a masse, and a tonando Jonah de Soya, Langa in the tonado Jonah de Soya, and Cherambe Lola, and a Caresana, and a ponja is, Conom de Grace at the Authority.
So, up until yesterday, we discussed about the definition of an uncontaminated object, and then we talked about the illustrations of uncontaminated object. And then we talked about the true parts and the three uncompounded phenomena being illustrations of uncontaminated objects. And then we move on with the text. And so the next kind of assertions that made by this school is all contaminated objects are necessarily objects to be abandoned, for even the two parts of accumulation and preparation are to be abandoned.
Sojoni Ponja in Beaches, Tolan Sami Kona dance, Golam Domala, Nimbola, and Newport Rela, Sajida Sami Giris, Chesota Chedama Lola, Langa in Tomboni, Sojoni, the Ponja de Chep, Don Tolam de Lansamba Tolam Sia, the Sami Bichap Cigares, that Golam Domala Tela, and Sajida Samigi, and Chaniga US, Saji, you can Sami, you can US at the or DJ.
So then in the Vashiga school, when they talk about the 5 parts, then they say like the 2 parts of accumulation and preparations are to be abandoned. And then when they talk about the part of seeing, then they assert that the part of seeing is completely uncontaminated. This is why it is not to be abandoned. And then when they talk about the parts of meditation and parts of normal learning, then they say like these 2 parts, they have like both instances of contamination, contaminated and uncontaminated parts. Sagje da sangmengi jagi chayores da kurangila. Kandis sangme da sagje gi chani jayores.
Da dini mala ngura deresha. Pana yina sami bi chapjong paju jena sami bi machaptes Golam bi juji shiran namba ji na tere. Karasuna Golam bil dela sami bi machas Golam bi juji shiran namba ji lamji yores jidi bi lamji. Ote karasuna sachiris. Da no ji gi malalamba di do malalamba konsa jula yo ane karasuna shiran namba ji lamji yore deso karasuna sachiri mado ane sami mares ya de Golam bi juji la ina Sami bi macha karesuna Golam bi juji shira namba jinjela shira namba jinjela so din jite bilam so gore o tundik jilam ji yes Golam bi jula yo tundik lan ji yes o te shagdo te chereja.
So then when we talk about parts of meditation and parts of no more learning having both instances of contaminated and uncontaminated parts, then when we talk about the part of meditation, then there is in the continuum of the part of meditation, then there is instances where like there are the instance of the part is like worldly parts. Jigdengi lam sung
jitebi shira nabaji lams. That they change by sound the courage of Golam bi julim did US or tanda carriers and jitebi lams are shira nabaji song data Chidan Kuru Karacharos and Mushi double the che jitebi lampenagatua. That de la carriers in the shira nabaji song do Umala turned about Kumala Yende na tanke shira nabaji Shawasung the Yende Rabasia the Juntanke that pen and Dobanda Junta daily tis carriers and a Sunday tombala Yende of Tatake or to do in jitebi lamji something Mushi double or carriers music more to Chubasagora or to do in jitebi lamji the so carriers and lam sachiri mato la samere vesena mares o pajula karsna malala on te no shiji yores or te shira naba chense on de shawa sound yende dans rabat sound de quand uma te so la jun dans jun son ta de pas d'avoir une quand de yura carresna pena nemo aton tse thongwa dang dene chi nyamo chewa dang tundu ge mongbo ji yungbo kan kongwa la towa yin teli tudi dis ne nyongwa dang ane tse ringwa daba dang ane chi o karasu de donga nyongwa o tundu ge cheba ta dingi shira naba chen son du ongwa la chun dang kongwa la yonte ta dingi o tundu je lan chi yore golan be ju la golan do mala lam be ju la o teso kare re se na ji de bi lam re shira naba chen de re ma to teso lan same re se na ma res
So then when we talk about these two parts, the shira number then there is like this peacefulness and coarseness. Shi, peacefulness, and ta is like coarseness, and in this like the peacefulness kind of reflects that the gang toa de zola songra
toa de zola shiwa sondi ji de yende da bata uma de zola jön da raba da bata jön da bata o tunuk tangi gi lam ji yere so ro te so ka re na ji de belan la sa ji is.
So in the continuum of this part of meditation and part of normal learning, then there is instances where we like kind of reflect on the peacefulness and the coarseness of the path, and wherein like peacefulness refers to like the qualities of the higher levels of this path, and then the coarseness kind of refers to the defects of the lower levels of the path. And in this way, this is like this constitutes a worldly path, instance of a worldly path in the continuum of the path of meditation and path of normal learning.
Panayina Sami be Chapjons, Pajujana Sami be Machatis. Panayina, Chidami Lola, Panayina, and the Sami be Chaps Laguris. This on the Pajula Bilaina, and the Panay be Machaps Lagua Chagdo, Mazo Contini Caresina, Golan Bijula, and the Caresina, Lam Sajidon, Sami Nabaniga Yores, Lapsara, Golan Baticare, Papi Consarova, Taku Jola, Sajid, Sami Ninja Yureson, de Tala, Sami de Panayis. Kujuje la sajide ane pana reesna pana mais la gokira ba chagdo pana ina sami bi chapjong se kon lapsara chozo gonan bijula nga kareresna la sajide sami ni yure sami de pana is sajide pana reesna pana mares jide belam res la is na la is gora wate pana mais moturi jini shicha chigo ya dawji yongodo wate jede tisha.
So then, of course, when we talked about the assertion that the paths of meditation and paths of normal learning both have instances of contaminated and uncontaminated paths, and then the kind of third assertion that's made here is that all superior paths are necessarily uncontaminated. But due to the previous assertion, they kind of follow this assertion by saying all superior paths are necessarily uncontaminated, but the paths in the continuum of a superior are not necessarily uncontaminated. And this kind of refers back to the instances of contaminated paths that we saw in the paths of meditation and paths of normal learning. Since when you reach the path of meditation, then you are in the superior path.
Pajujala Sami Machete, Golan Bujuji, Shira number chin to Jubi, Lamde, Saji Miches, or Chetatana Gondrosason, Golan Bujuji Layana, Sami Bichigamare, Saji be Garrison, Chigamare, Sami Bichigamare, Machem, Shiragaris, Shira Nabachin, Lamde, or the Golan Bujula Yure, Tana Bicase, Malalam Jula Yures, Tana Bujula Yures, and Mesibu, Tonam. Tona pay Julie to Shiranaba Jitibana de Yures and Yamares. Gona Bada and a Malani Paleremado, Tona Bujula to the Land de Yures and Yamares, or thing on the Chivachigo Chido.
So then, when we talk about the continuum of a superior path, then we say like the continuum of the superior path or the continuum of the path are not necessarily uncontaminated. Because we talked about the paths having this aspect of reflecting on the peacefulness and the coarseness, and then when we talk about the peacefulness, this peace, when they are reflecting on the peacefulness and the coarseness, then this constitutes a worldly path. So this is an instance of like the continuum of the superior parts having uncontaminated parts as well. Also. And then in the part of seeing, they completely say it's uncontaminated.
There. That's the Kozogi, Tona Bujula to Nigula, such Shiranabati, maybe Jensen of Karashigres and Chirabilo, Tona della, Kijima Jonga to Yumaris, Kijima Jonga. Tona Kijima Jonga della Caresana, Kanganyaja Tanuris, Pachimana, not only Jonjerimato, Karesan and Jidepa, Shiranabati to Nichesa, Yuris, and Yumaris, Kiji Jonga Bome, Jonga della. Chatukaresana Pajimano, not only Segura, or to do with China Shaderimato, Jidebi Lamti, Chiagi, Turchesa Juris in the Yamaresiate. Chitan go Tonam de la Nasachimi with Jessica, and Tonam de Kijichonga Mato Shagomari, Kijichonga de la Pachimanato, Nadana Remato, Jidebi Lanji Yungurisene, Yungumaresiate.
Parjim Melam Dan Kansure,
Nandola,
Namjul,
Pachimanato, Nandola. Demato, and then Jidebi Lansi, Chigresene, Chigmares,
Kijichonga,
Tonana Kijichonga. Kijichunga de Chaton Pachimano, Narona Jandorimato, Jidebenaj Yuris in the Mares.
So then, when they make the assertion that the path of seeing is completely uncontaminated, and then the kind of reason that they put forward for this assertion is they say like the path of seeing has like 5 Kijichunga, 15 moments wherein like there is no worldly parts at all, and these 15 moments are defined by like the Parje Melam Suraging, the path of no more obstruction, unobstructed path, and then Namjul Lam, and the path of liberation. So there is no worldly aspect in this path at all.
Teresha, Patricia, and Rigno, Deje. That's some Bamatos Carasana, Sajisumba Deresha, Condini, Dambani Don, Sajis, Amig, Yawa de Roa, and Rotsani, that's some Bacarasana, Tradition Embassy, the Sajing of somebody, Tradition Embassy, the Redesha.
And then with this, we have finished our discussion on the uncontaminated and contaminated objects, and then it's the third topic of. Now we move on to the third topic on the assertions that they make regarding objects, and then the third is like 4 related topics that they talk about objects. Also.
Tradition Nebanis, Dusan Zison do this, Chidama, Dusan the Disitaban killing this. Do some the Gateran, Dibata Mamba, Tata, some the Disitaban do this. Bambate, Pimpin Dibi Tuson, Bamba Kono, Bamba Mambu Tuson, Yoban Dubis, Chitama Konongi, Devadabate, Dusan Disitaban, Bambate, Pamban Dibi Yabadan, Bambate and Pamba Mambu Tuson, yes, Konongi, Kinadobuchi or to do with the Shas at the Jerit.
So then, out of these 4 like related topics, then the first assertions they kind of make is like the 3 times are asserted to be substantial entities, because this school maintained that a pot exists even at the time of the pass of a pot, and a pot exists even at the time of the future of a pot. And this is the assertion, kind of the assertion that they make.
Gadoni Kilejo, Megani Kimelete. Gapa yena mainge chabanduichi or Terama Konokasan Chidam, Gapaton, Japanija killing Remato, Gabatella, Ane Mengarima, Casim Maingaremato, Mengado Koron killing Reus, killing Mares, Kimele Jessica Restoa in the Chizu Gapayana Koron Carrestoa in Mainga in Bichaba Koron killing Reus, is done Megasia the killing Reusina, killing Mare, Techi.
So then, when we move on to the next assertion, like of the 4 related topics, then they make this assertion that they assert that both negative and positive phenomena exist, but they do not accept the existence of non-affirming negatives, because they say all negatives are necessarily affirming negatives.
Techiche, Gapayana Maingi Chaban Dubiches, Kaji Chitamawana, Dodepa, Tubas, Lendijin Divi, Tende, Nashi Jukunages, Cheson, Kaji Chitama, the Tama County, Iwa Tendaba Casere, Sumshe, so Kaji Chitamawa, 아니 가래 여유지 지라마와 니오비 지라마와 수숨을 시도와 디노네 다다다 디가스 가래서 같이 지라마와 대소 가래서나 노데바도 지바지 리딩 디비텐들라 가래서는 나시지 준 세아디 콘도비 샤그레스야디 바로 리딩 디와기 텐들라 아니 나시기 주세야디 아니 노데바이 샤반나시기 아니 같이 지라마하게요 아니 다랑 아니 킬링게레스야 디지 샤그도와
Then, when we talked about like the three sub-schools of this Vaibhashika school, then we talked about there being the Kashmiris, the Aparantakas, and the Magadhas. So then the Kashmiri proponents of this school, they kind of agree with the proponents with the Sutra school in asserting that a continuum of a consciousness is the base that connects actions with their effects.
제조 다들 가르쳐 버렸으나 빼는 데서 버려 빼는 거죠 두 번째 피시셔야나 산산바 대속에 랜딩 디비텐더 가르쳐 하고 버렸으나 군시스야지 하고 버렸어 군시스 다 군시스 가르쳐 하고 버렸으나 가족이 신들의 리기와도 메기와 가르쳐 사대와도 와이나요 기와기 리테도 메기비 리테서 제와 몸보지 좋아 있나요 로 동장 몸보 좋아 있나요 사지야 리티기 아니 매바 차도 그래서나 가르쳐는 대차야 개요 말이지 कुशिकिसो शिबाचियो कुशि ती तींदे अने पाछाना बो निबादा बजे स्लाग रेस निबा देलेतेने चरो मापाल को दिबे मिया दुसेदा बला हो काता ता मिगुडी गुरी मातो लेचे देले लेसानी चो मोबोचेला जी दिबे फि माथा बाइना ते पारो ले लेंदी दे अने मेबादा बो छांडो या ता दिबे चिया मेबादा बो तुदिदो बो के छागरे वेसने छाग मारेस निबादा बो ते पाछादा बो ते छातो अने कुशिसिया ती देने छागरे निबा ती देने दे दे रेस या दे 아니 산삼기 어두치니 기능을 했어. 대절에도
군시
mind basis of all.
Mind basis of all.
Ground consciousness. Ground consciousness.
So then, now to kind of illustrate this assertion, then we kind of refer to how the Chittamatra, the mind-only school, they assert like the base that connects actions and their effects. When the Chittamatra school, they talk about the basis, the base that connects actions and their effects, then they talk about this ground consciousness or mind basis of all, wherein like this is the base that connects like all the accumulated actions or karma from the past lives and past lives to their effects in this and future lives. And then they talk about how like this when karma is accumulated on this ground consciousness, then it kind of leaves an imprint which is like which cannot be like erased at all or eradicated at all. Lasso.
어디서 산자비 렌딩이 디비텐 데라 꾸지 잡아놓은 시간 단단히 지라마와도 같이 지라마로 같이 지라마와도 어디 받아서기 단다가래서 난시기 주기 된데 신들라 리스 디와도 아니 리게와도 메게와 사샤와도 있나요 리티기 니바다부디 가래서 난시기 주기 된 니디그리마도 니 리스탄도 로모보도와 있나요 리티 톨란도도야도 디비치야 메바 튜니케 차그래서는 차가 말했어 지수 니바다부디 가리텐 사디 그래서 와이나 렌딩 난시기 주기 된데 아니 가래서 니바데 따다샤네 마오발라 리티기 세들 게와도 메게빌리 가르사와 있나 티기 디비도 마오발라 찌그리마도 디 톨라다부케 로고르에서는 로고 말했어 산산비 꾸시 샤바 난시기 같이 제라마도 너데바데저기 아니 렌딩 디비텐데라 아니 난시기 주스 거래
So as we talked about how the Chittamatra, they accept this ground consciousness as the basis that connects karma with their effects, then this Kashmiri proponents of the Vaibhashika school and the Sutra school, they kind of assert the continuum of consciousness as the base that connects karma and their effects, wherein this when actions are accumulated on this continuum of consciousness, then like the effects of the actions and the effect of the karma or the result of the karma is never like eradicated or destroyed.
아니 때 마토비 제다마와나 린디진 디비텐데 토바당스 다 같이 제다마와데 파피비 아니 제다마와가 시스고라 맞네 때 마토비 제다마 가르샤 그래서는 린디진 디비텐데라 다 가르샤스나 토바 시야지 샤그레스 린디 리데 사니 유좀 본도소 아이나 리디기 아니 디베데 메바 찬로야 둘이 연구를 했으니 연구 말했지 렌디티 아니지 덴데야게 덴바집이 지다고지 가르스나 토바스야지 샤그레스 다다 같이 제담마 나시기 주셔봐 나시기 제담마 신다데 속이 가르스나 토바스야지 리사니 리로르 분동아 이나요 리 렌디긴 데와데 덴네 메바 참으로와 아니 토바스야지 토바티 가르스나 아니 고 톨람으로와지니 아니 베 냐데기스나마도 데카레레서 와이나 토바스야데 자그레스 데마치비지데
then dumaje sonre
Tomaje.
deminduje
디미디제 토바스
okay and then this is the assertion that the Kashmiri sub school make about make regarding the base that connects karma with their effects or action with their effects, and then the rest of the other sub schools except for the Kashmiris, then they assert that that there is a compositional phenomena that is neither form nor consciousness, that is the base which connects actions with their fruits. And this Tobasunra
토바스한 데리 다 리디기 리 다운디베스 리트 사사니 주르분도 와이나요 리디티 톨란도면도 덴바지가 나차치 딩이 쓰고 말이야 때때두기 아니 디미디지 요레스 어디기 가르스나 아니 가르스나 토바스야 데기 가르스나 아니 마음발 가르스는 디비다다다 미바치 그래서 디지리도
So this compositional phenomena, there is neither form nor consciousness which connects actions with their fruits or actions with their effects. This is called an obtainer.
디지리시 다음 가시 가르샤 그래서나 디지리도 번레조 본자던 저 추면서와시 디미 디지디 주바시 키네라스 가시 가르스는 번레조 본자 방자가서 번레 본자스는 괜자대로 아주 가르스는 메신다스는지 빼는 밴드 수수거라 지존 빼샤라고 내만다고 이나 2차자 사이자 자존치를 편할 대샤고도 어때 난시기 아니 가르레스나 소수기 자원로만 디스거라 리사샤와 이나요 된두기 리디가스는 톨란로문도 빼는 괜찮다고 지기 아니 가르레스는 디미디지스야지 아니 가르스는 톨란로문도 옆에 번는 거 본자다고지 디미 본자다고지 디미디지시 요레스 어때를 때니 데카레스는 렌딩 디위텐텔라 어테샤그레스야 춤마자와스 렌딩 디위텐텔라 네 춤마자와스 샤그레스야 어들이 제레디샤
So then they kind of use this analogy wherein like this compositional phenomena, there is neither form nor consciousness, wherein like there is no wastage of karma, and then they kind of talk about they use this analogy comparing this compositional phenomena, there is neither form or no consciousness which connects actions with their fruits, like when you take a loan, then there is this agreement or document wherein like you say this which proves and guarantees that the loan would be repaid in some time. So they kind of use this analogy to describe this compositional phenomena which connects the actions with their fruits.
가르에서 그러네. 렌딩이 디비텐데라 자동 만들어가 만들어 인디노라 숨다 붙이려고도 가지 지라마도 도대바되기 나시기 주샤고 그래서 렌딩 디비텐데라 데마토비 에네 지라마도 가르자 렌딩 디비텐데라 토바샤고 그래서 지지. 같이 가르 시다지 가르에서는 번어주 본자던 디비 처음에서 왔어야도 드리지 샤고 그래서야도 아니 상상비 가르에서는 렌딩 디비텐데라 오늘 군시스 샤고 그래서야돼. 다팅아주 니고야라버테
So to kind of sum up like the different ways that they talk about the base which connects actions with their effects, then with the Chidamatra school, when they talk about, we discuss this ground consciousness which is the base that connects actions with their effects. And then when we talked about the Kashmiri proponents of the Vaibhashika school, this particular school, then they talk about the continuum of a consciousness being the Kashmiri school and the Sutra school. They assert that the continuum of a consciousness is the base that connects karma with their effects. And then we talked about the rest of the Vaibhashika school. They like have different ways of describing this base that connects actions with their fruits, wherein like this compositional phenomena, there is neither form nor consciousness, is an obtainer, and then then the rest they kind of describe it as as the example of a guarantee of a loan, wherein like there is no wastage of karma.
Demi Jisha Kilenas, Tanjava, Dinigi Lola, Lumagli, Sujet, this, or Terry. Takaresina, Chitama, Tanjo, the Zogi, and Karesina, Ludam, Ability, or Karesina, Zukinsia, the killing Gracia, Magiwachi, or a pen of Magiwachi, the Giwachi, the only Karesina, Ludam, and Magi, Litis or Karesina, Chitama Lo de Zuk killing Gray, Tanjavi on Karesina, Ludam, Magi, Litil Karesina. Then
another assertion that this school that they make, which is in common with the consequent school, is that this school, the Vaibhashikas, they assert that actions of body and speech have form, just like the consequent school.
Terida Pedangazo, Deo, Megiwachi, or Megiwachi in the Tanda, Lumagli de la Cassia, Lumagli de la Dura, Lijuguni Sucheva, Majiva Neva, Mazoba Chuba Sumji, Magigoni, Zu, Chama, and Tizap in Manchas, or T. Dudela, and Caresina, Lidela, Lumagu Lidela, and Zukinsia, the Cherama, and the Tanjuanica Kinigres. That's Sanzapa, the Bench, of Carkilisana, Lysia, the Sinjoni Mato, Sinjo Sambari Mato, Zujin Dugerisana, Zujin Dugamaresia, or Deji Chibachigo, Lysia, the Zujin killing it, Lumagli Zuji killing it, Cherama, the Baningi, Lutamagli, Zuji killing it, Matayon, Yijuko, Namsan, the Nosan, Lutas Senora. The Sugi the Suji Duggeries in the Mares, Lumagli the Suji Duggeries, Lungali the Suji Duggede, and the Cheramata, and the Tanjo and Nimato, and the Jendat Sokanagi, and the Lee cousin Megiwachi lead to Chason, and the Simba, Sinjon, or less Duggeries, Shiban Duggerima, Suji killing the Vesena, killing Mares, they jetted.
So then, when we talk about this assertion that the actions of body and speech have form, then we said that this the Vaibhashika school and the consequent school, they assert that the actions of the body and speech have form. And then when we talk about the actions of body and speech, then we talk about the 10 non-virtuous deeds. And out of the 10 non-virtuous deeds, then the non-virtuous deeds of the body and speech, there are 7. And these 7, they say, have form. And then when they talk about the non-virtuous deeds of the mind, then they do not assert that the actions, the non-virtuous actions of the mind have form. They say like the actions of the non-virtuous actions of the mind is a consciousness. Wherein, when we talk about the consequent school of the middle way and the Vaibhashika school, they assert like the body action of body and speech have form, but the other schools, that is the Chittamatra school and the Sutra school, they say like actions are mental factors. They do not accept that actions have form at all.
Tan Dijila Matabi Chapchon, Kejeri, Jibi Machaptis, GCP wood, Nibi Chawa, the Tea wood, and Jibi Chawan Dubiches. That is so the Chadamela, the Konon Dabakazana in the Karas and Dijina, Mataba Chagures, Yinayon, Kejeri, Jibi Chigurisina, Kejeri, Jibi Chigumare, say the Konobi and the Karesna, Canada with Tuchin to go on the Jila, Mataba in Chigures, Mataba Yinaya, Kejeri, Jiguresina, the Jigumare, Techi Redisham.
So now, then there is this like kind of unique and contentious assertion that the Vaibhashika school make, and the assertion is all compounded phenomena are necessarily impermanent, but they do not necessarily disintegrate moment by moment.
Takorongi Kejeri Jibi Machibi Jinsedabu Karuko and Duku Indo, GCB Woods, nibi chawa tang diu de ni jibi chawa chezo kare chen jewa tang jiba tang nibi chawa sum de remji de yong gores tongbo che diu de ni diu de ji sa de jinji ni sang ge chawa de remji de yong go yo yi zang ani kare se ne mataba ina ke je ni jibi ma che sing wi je se da de tongbo che jibi chawa che diu de nibi chawa de che diu de kare re ani jibi chawa so remji de poramji de yong go re sa de jinsi turiji ni jigo go da ko
che ne ga ani jik sonra
ta chi bar chi ni ga sna ra ji sna ga ba don ji ba ni chi bare to bo che chi de wo de ni chi de wo de ji ba sna digere yon ga ba sna digere kare ta ni chi bare ji ba da ga ba ji da.
So then when they make this assertion that all compounded phenomena are necessarily impermanent, but they do not necessarily disintegrate moment by moment, and the kind of reason that they put forth for saying that compounded phenomena do not necessarily disintegrate moment by moment, then they talk about like this four stages. There's the production stage, the abiding stage, the aging, and the disintegration stage. And for the if compounded phenomena disintegrate moment by moment, then there will be no instant wherein there is a moment of production, and there will be since if there is no moment of production, then there is no like moment of abiding, and then there is no moment of aging. So these kind of stages have to go in a chronological order. And if like these compounded phenomena disintegrate moment by moment, then this chronology of these stages would not take place at all. So this is the kind of reason that they put forth for saying like compounded phenomena do not disintegrate moment by moment. Chabayo marisongrada.
Karela.
The kiji la jig.
Oh, the jila matapala kiji ni jibi chik maris koro de taji song do. Tade song de tang azu tri macha ba ba na matapa so matapa se adi kiji ri ni joan ro yung keji gogu mare wes kiji ri ni joan ro. So de ta kono jig se adi ji do jig se adi ge no ko ji kan lenge me. Yana teji san no tong ba ji do karasne. Diji na matapa ine kiji ri ni joan ro gu mare ni joan ro de ni ji ro gu mare wes jig se adi joan ro adi keji de mare wes. Yana jig se adi bed me ba cha do ya. Tundi sha go re kari sha go re di.
So with this kind of reasoning put forward, of course a lot of questions arise, and then when we talk about like impermanence, then doesn't impermanence necessarily follow that like this impermanent thing it kiji la jidore like that.
Kiji ni joan ro mare wes mataba ina.
So if something is impermanent, then wouldn't it necessarily be that this like thing changes like from moment to moment? And then the kind of other question, duje chedi
ani kiji re ni joan ro gu mare wes ade ro kares ni joan ro mo na ko mataba in so mataba so de kiji re ni joan ro ge mataba se shag mare wes mataba se na.
So then wouldn't like compounded phenomena which we say are necessarily impermanent, then wouldn't this follow that compounded phenomena would change moment by moment?
Turiji chadu wa te kare ta ji re do chezo korongi
jik di kola kangsong re gi
jig la na konso gi jig se ya de koron so gi mepa chongso san no kon tong de gre so yonan joan do wala san no jadu do kare ta do de ga je ba che re do se ya de ro jig se ya de joan do wa la san no don jig se ja go re se yonan jig se ya de be mepa cha ba kare se ne mepa cha do ya tudil len jig se go re kare re de ji ta go je re sha se ya de.
So then jig
disintegrate.
So then when they say like not necessarily disintegrates moment by moment, then we kind of have to like think about what do they mean by this term disintegrate. Do they mean like does it mean like it changes from moment to moment, or does it mean like it ceases to exist at all?
Chezo ta di ngazo di pecha no ta de wan da bayina chawa rong jaw da tongbo karsne ji bi chawa ji di shu de na ni bi chawa da di u de la karsne ji bi chawa de ne ramji jugures kono dishi jaba jawande ti jawande kombo ji sibi wo nibi jawaji kombo ji bi jawaji ji sibi wo nibi jawaji nibi wo de jibi jawade yungures onde 드리지 대시 코너 드리진 지 너고 시기도 와서 대제리샤.
So then, if we kind of look at their texts, the Vipashika, their like sutras, then the kind of like explanation that we kind of we see or we read is like we talked about like the four activities. This activity of production, this activity of abiding, activity of aging, and activity of disintegration. And then and like they make the assertion that these activities have to occur in a chronological order, one after the other. So from this kind of explanation, maybe we can gain an understanding what do they mean by this disintegration that they say like is not necessary.
대제 어때리시 디 우리 집에 자원 되비시 저도 따따이 인지 내가 좀 가는 거 말해서는 지들이 디 지들 뇌수들 니고도 가르쳐 내가 좀 동부 사지 맞대는데 지라멜로 대사서 니지 되서 라지 되서 디비기 되서 사지 숨시에네 동부 지 되서들 니 유진 되서도 이지지 되서 니 시는 따따다 디 가르쳐 심바리스는 유진 되서 차니 따니바 가르쳐서 와이나 아니 진진도 써야 돼. 유연하고 제대로 샤서 되지지.
So to kind of sum it up, we say it like in the Sutra school there will be a chapter on the assertions that they make, not the Sutra school. In the Vipashika school, there will be a chapter on the assertions that they make, and furthermore, like on the assertions that they make, there will be like assertions on the basis of the base, path, and fruit. And then when we talk about the base, we say like there will be two subchapters: assertions regarding objects and assertions regarding subjects. And now the assertions that this school makes regarding objects are covered. And now we move on to the second subchapter, which is the assertions regarding subjects.
다 이제진도 저들의 맞성도 이제들 가세시 바레스네 이제들 숨도 시도 이번 이진도 최소한도 다 이제들 가세 작을해서 와이나 안에 강사 아니 시바지 아니 주제지다도 숨시 이제들 숨 강사 시바 아니 주제지다 숨데라 아니 이제기 예와들 숨도 어딜 가르스나 강사도 시바도 주제지다 숨 작을해서 되지지.
So then assertions regarding subjects. Now, when they talk about subjects, they say like that there are three kinds of subjects, or there are three subchapters, and the three subchapters or three kind of subjects are persons, consciousness, and terms.
다 동보 관사들 시험을 다 관사들 시험도 다 지라마 기대속이 관사가를 시작했었는데 내린도 다시 풍봉가 이 추점대 다시 풍봉가 이 추바들 가려서는 아니 관사가 천지 인해야 돼 지단체에는 관사가 천지 있어야 되라 다시 풍봉가 추바들 아니 관사가 천지 있어야 돼 관사해야 돼 천지 들이지도 시작하고 그래서 이장기 지용도.
So the first one, that is persons. And then the definition of a person is put forth as the mere collection of the mental and physical aggregates. The mere collection of a mental and physical aggregates is accepted as the person.
대제제 같이 가르치나요? 몽복과 같이 지라마이 대바 조제기 농신도 주 몽고위 대바사지 그래. 어때서기 가르쳐 그래서나 풍봉아찬요 관상 천지 인스. 관상 주주도 풍봉아 조주 풍보도 소화도 내시던 데서 나가시 풍봉아 가데 아니 가르쳐서나 관상의 천지 인스 몽고바 가지기 어트리지네 그래서 지레셔.
So even though there is this general assertion that the mere collection of the mental and physical aggregates is the definition of a person, then of course among the 18 sub-schools of the Vipashika school, then some of the schools, like some of the 5 Samatya schools, sub-schools, they kind of make this other assertion wherein they say like not just the general assertion was the mere collection of the aggregates. And now, like this 5 Samithya like sub-schools, they assert that all 5 aggregates are an illustration of a person.
Senchibe Gonzaga changing this, Swan Passia, Girisha, take Garesina, Gonzat, Senchibe Remato, and Jena Dugeresina, Jena Dugamaresia, the Corongion, Gonzat, Senji, the Saint Mato, Jenda, Gonzaga, Killing and Killing Marisa, Yungodoa.
And then another sub-school called the Avantakas, then they assert that the mind alone is an illustration of a person.
Or to the Jedisha. Oh, Techi, this Digimon, Daji Pumanga, Tuta Kazak, Sanjido, Mongo, Kajigi, Pumbanga, Sanjido, Suma, Senchibe Kazak, Sanjin, the Ostere. That is all Techi, Taniba de Laudo, that Shibasia didn't do Nibakares and Shibatella, and the Gares and another Sematon, and the Simiji Shiba, Nires, Gares and Tombo Kansasia, the Takonogi, Jerame Konola Kazaki, Tanda de Sudi Shesawache, that Nibashiba said the Caceres and Shibatella, Yavana Chiwaina, Sematon, and the Simishiba Nisi Oasat, or those Nishi exaggerations.
And then these are the assertions that that the Vaibhashika school make regarding the person as a subject. And now the second is consciousness. And when the Vaibhashika school, they talk about consciousness, then they say like consciousness could be divided into categorized into two different type of consciousness: prime cognitions and non-prime consciousnesses.
Da shiba dele tsema do tsemi shiba ni tsema dele kasi yoris na yewa dele ni ji ngosum ji tsema dang ani jis pa bi tsema ni yus tsema korona pa chewan da yina kasi yoris ni ngosam tsema dang ani jis pa bi tsema ni yus ya tsema korona yewa da bote otu chin shal do sa te ji.
So when they talk about consciousnesses, we say they assert like two type of consciousnesses: prime cognitions and non-prime consciousnesses. And then like the first one, prime cognitions, are further divided into two types of cognitions: direct prime cognitions and inferential prime cognitions.
Tangosong Sematella by Yawashi or the Cassis Sumburesana, Usum Sungdoa, Mosan Sematella, Umbongosumji Tsema, Yijungosanji Tsema, and Nanjongosumji, and the Tsema Asiati, Sum Tuchin Shake to Saturation.
So we say the prime cognitions can be further divided into two types of cognitions: direct prime cognitions and inferential prime cognitions. And then the first one, which is direct prime cognitions, are further divided into three types. That is the sense direct perceptions, mental direct perceptions, and yogic direct perceptions.
Teji, that Tumbanga Ombongosumji Sematella Casisha, and Ombongosum Sematella, Umundella, Penanga, that was Shani Rigora, Gadazina Meg Nabashivas in the Yuta, Zonzi Mishi, Zonzi Mishi, and Danzi Mishi. Ani zonzi onshis ne du do zonzi onshi danzi gi nyishi pendata dere yona khadu do le la ba sha ina ma megi namba shiba da na ina ba shiba ji namba shiba ani luji namba shibas o tinga yoro megi namba shiba na ina ba shiba na ina ba shiba ji namba shiba luji namba shiba o tinga de karasena umbongo sam tsama sa de o di umbongo sam de la yawa nga yoshi nga de o tinga de re sa de je.
So then we talked about there being three different types of direct prime cognitions. We talked about sense direct prime cognition, mental direct prime cognition, and yogic direct prime cognitions. And then the first one, which is the sense direct perceptions. Sorry, they assert three different direct prime cognitions, and then these are the sense direct perceptions, mental direct perceptions, and yogic direct perceptions. And then out of the three, the first one, which is sense direct perceptions, could be further divided into five different perceptions, which are the five sense consciousnesses. For example, the eye consciousness, the ear consciousness, the nose consciousness, then the body consciousness, the tongue consciousness, and so forth.
다 이중원상이 천시세요. 이중원상에서 다 가정가지고 시작해서 되는 거래. 조조옹을 된가비 대마타도 이제 어느 봉원상지 지기래시. 이중봉원상지 이중원상지 인원시. 가르스는 존지비 이중원상지 지기래시. 어디서 가르랬으나 맨날 존지 인원시 지시더라. 어디서 저 가르스는 이중원상지 자기래시지.
So then the second one, which is the mental direct perception. Then the illustration of a mental direct perceptions, we kind of discussed about it in the last time, wherein like there's this instance of perception, just one instant of perception, and this is an illustration of a mental direct perception.
Hence the physical suk.
Yeah.
That was it.
Sukzin. Munsomji.
The direct perceiver.
Mental direct perceiver.
Yeah, that arises once the sense.
Once the sense cognize. Yeah,
right.
yeah. For example, now an illustration. The medogeji di pedi anjusong lagi.
가르라.
The 이게
이제 인원들아.
인문은 좀.
제주 가져가서 빼대지 않아 빼나. 동보 온시 존지 온시 존지 소리 맥시 받으러 조주기. 되게 시바텔 기징하러 빼자. 기징하러 보면 제바지. 나바티 뱅가비 데마타 가르스나 아니 좀 빼다 메도지 이중화선 지기를 했어. 빼대자. 제단다 니마텔 온기지 뭐지 주고라. 얘는 빼들이잖아. 나도 같이 가는 거지. 나도 집이 오메디 가비 막 내가 차 데마타 되는 거라서 이지 시바스 축 지기를 했어. 어때 가르스는 존지 인원서 때 작도.
단다디랑로.
레레 다다 이중화선서 어때 작도.
So then an illustration or a direct example would be when we talk about the flower and how the eye consciousness kind of perceives this flower, and there will be like let's say there will be like five moments in the perception of the eye, in 5 moments when the eye consciousness perceives this flower, but at the end of the 5th moment, like immediately after the 5th moment, there will be an instant when the mental direct perception like perceives this flower, and this like would only last for an instant, and this is an illustration of a mental direct perception.
대체체 다타마 나중원선서야 되리 나중원선데 파비 관사줄라 마도 yendak jule yorisine ye mas na jongo sa ina pe na mataba ina dame ba ina kare ina tena tubi ne na jongo samsia ji yoris te kare sina phabi konsa le ma do yenda le yorisine ye mare sa te je.
So then the fifth then the third there is the yogic direct perception. Now this yogic direct perception only like superior beings can have this experience of yogic direct perceptions. Normal people wouldn't have this yogic direct perceptions.
다 되는 가서 델레페 시 자와이나 무슨 세아지도 무슨 세아데 가르지 고르서는 여디 젬바 통되게 여디 세보 차되게 되는 무슨 삼성으로 빼는 무슨 성성도 빼 가르 고고르서는 파주 여디 빼 젬바 세보 차되게 될 가르래 무슨 세아데 차로.
So then when we talk about like in the translations, they are all translated as direct, and if we kind of notice the pattern in which like this is translated, it says direct, sense direct perceptions, mental direct perceptions, yogic direct perceptions, and the Tibetan word is munsum. So then like what do we mean by like what do we mean by direct or munsum in this instance? And when we say direct, then like it kind of refers to the ability to see the object yukorang la rada. To kind of perceive or see the object nakedly. That is what they mean by direct perceptions here.
Gompa 파주드는 매여서 제지가르스는 도안도 와서 지스파손 가르스는 최바치니 어디 드르레시 파티 동티들 지바스온데 제체는 티니 제바 진이 진전에 되니 아니 동행이 체마테 솔라 카레레스나 동행이 솔라 카레레 지바스 모선시아 둘이 진전상으로 동 말했어 파주 유드 거 제모 통초에서 콜 진전담을 고고리에서는 고고 말했어 지바스야 제바지 쇠바지니 다다다도 유드 또 되게 되는 지바스 두진이
So to kind of clear this point by contrasting the direct prime cognitions and inferential prime cognitions. Now when we talk about inferential prime cognitions, an illustration of inferential prime cognition would be the instance where we say there must be a fire there because you see the smoke coming up. There is no direct perception of the fire itself. But we kind of use our reasoning to say there must be a fire there. So in the case of direct cognitions, there is no need to kind of estimate or reason, to use reason, because it's directly perceived.
되제 지바츠마 되제 지바츠마세 되제 다 난종원선선의 지바르스 원숨스가 다 다리 건데 빼는 가지고 빼 난종원선 쓰고 가르스거든 다 동부 빼다고 저와야나 동부들은 말어 좁지라 로티도 지원데 계기마 튜비니가스 아주 그 튜비니가스 가르스나 된다 가르레 아니 빼네 시럽들은 아주 느리지거든 지단이나 최종이 시럽도 상종이 시럽도 아니 감정이 시럽도 숨쉬거든 최종이 시럽서 온데 동부마 계기 로티 집이니가서 고아다 버라빠 랍자다 고데게들 최종 시럽어야지 상종이 시럽어야 돼 고아다 랍다 다리 고아라바 고자리 대고자니 니지 뭔가 또 튕기들 가려서는 상종 시럽지 삼성어데 다 대니가 된다데 하고는 된데 선니 아니 베 치미 좀 되게로데라 삼종사 시럽 차도 간종서도 다 다리 상종 시럽이 니지 하고자니 연이 산노도 연이 간이 베 산노도 되게들 아니 간종사 간종 시럽스 시럽스는 제바데 어드리지는 많이 연구 열어서 되지 그래도
시럽 how would be 시럽 wisdom. So then
right from hearing, contemplating and meditating.
Yes. So then when we talk about the yogic direct perceptions, then when we talk about the instance of wisdom, then they talk about three different stages in acquiring wisdom. And then the three different stages would be when you hear a teaching, and then you have a rough understanding of the teaching. And then when you kind of meditate on the teaching, then you kind of begin to apprehend or understand the meaning of the teaching, right?
And you start contemplating about it.
And start contemplating about it. And then the third stage would be when you meditate, and then you repeatedly meditate on the meaning of the teachings, and then in this way these sumdigin 가르치겠어.
저도 대숨들에 자서 대숨 자원도 다다다 가르치는 가지고 뒤눈이 난조건 섭세한테 가르치는 다 감정 실업세한테 잡고라 다들 다 나주신 실업 동부 가르치는 빼나 강아주 못다바다고 산도 동안이나 동부 못다바달에 매비 뒤중 실업지 막 건이 수도 얘기 마티운데 고아라 빠졌지 뒤중 실업 되게 집이 들여서 심이 하고 말 고아라 빠져마도 내가 차중을 잡고 말이야 산조기 실업이가서 딱 못다봤어야 눈이 가르치 예미지 집이 쫓아왔지 지바체마티 시나다 삼종스나다 지바라고 차려고 지바기니가 디카르스나 니주도 하고 거리 니주 고야 될까지 진행했더니 진행 못보지 산노도 진행 못보지 산노 코발했더니 그 니주도 하고 거리 kel 지바듯이 담난종 모습이 니가 세운도 지주치는 산노도 먹고 차사래 그래서 다리 지바기 되는데 삼종으로 요는 산노도 진행 산노도 빠르게 가르쳐서 진행 산노도 먹어 봐 베카르도 무슨데 가지고 매기 베 조토한 나시기 베 예데 베 시버 차타 제주주는 선은 거 먹고 투니 아니 베데 무슨 요토한 나지 바 차트게 될 가르쳐서 와이나 아니 난조 무슨 마다발 자와이나 서버다 마다발 자와이나 난조 무슨 마다발 난조 무슨 어떻게 보고 그래서
So then just as we talked about there being three stages in acquiring wisdom, then to kind of use the example of the concept of impermanence and or the wisdom of impermanence. Then when we talk about the wisdom of impermanence, when we hear the teaching for the first time, then you gain a rough understanding of the wisdom of impermanence, but then you do not really understand impermanence deeply. But then when you contemplate on your own, and then using like reasoning, and herein reasoning would refer to like inferential prime cognitions, wherein like you have jibaksema. So then you kind of have to use your reasoning to gain an understanding of this wisdom of emptiness. But when you reach the third stage, which is the when you meditate and keep meditating on these on the wisdom of impermanence, then you do not need reason anymore. You kind of directly perceive impermanence. So yes, so this the third stage, wherein like you do not need reasoning, and like you perceive it directly, that would be an illustration of yogic direct perceptions.
제가 들이 나중에 선생님이 스페인 마타발에 나중에 시고라 들이 나중에 선생님께서 아니 파비 관사지를 마도 신달을 요에서는 신달을 요 말해서 그래. 다 들이 나중에 선생님한테 가르쳐서 요들라 감바 쉬우지고 감바 쉬우지 니지디 연이 산도 강원도 바로질 가르쳐서는 뿐이 예바 세버 차든게 가르쳐서 제주주는 산도 또 먹어. 아주 미돌라 따왔는 중 예디 젠바 세버 차든게 되잖아. 아니 가르쳐서나 아니 나중에 섬세하다. 뭐 섬세하지는 리미도 나중에 섬세하대. 마타바라 보면 나중에 산이나 너무 투종이 싫었지. 데니 산종이 산노동 제바지. 데니 연대 강도 바로 제더니 가르쳐. 로디파 강바 슉침버지 라운드 데니 비여디 시보 제포 제차르든 통토와 이제 디니가서 근데 나중에 산세하대. 뭐 들이지는 연구도 되제리듯이.
So taking this example of the wisdom of impermanence, first you kind of receive teachings about the wisdom of impermanence, then you contemplate on the on the teaching of on the wisdom of impermanence and try to use your reasoning to get to arrive at an understanding of this wisdom, and then thirdly when you meditate and repeatedly meditate on this wisdom and impermanent, and kind of like gain a direct insight into the impermanence, then such a direct insight and such a direct perception of which is the yogic direct perception, it can only be achieved by like superior beings.